you all got the link to this folder.
Yes.
It's a Google folder, and I'm starting to take these notes. So
You added a page after I looked at it. I was like, wait a minute.
she went in there and started something. So I just figured all of our notes could end up, being in here. So the first thing I'd like to talk about really is the purpose of the toolkit. I think that we need to come to some consensus on the why, then with the the audience, and really nail down this purpose of this toolkit. And then we can start getting into the what. So any ideas about the purpose of the toolkit?
Well, so I was thinking, so I took some notes about the 4 points that you sent us in the agenda. And so, because one of the things you said was like consider structure, what do we want to include, how it will be used, audience, that kind of thing. So before I could think of purpose, one of the questions that I had for the group or our thoughts as a whole is, what do we want to do to make this toolkit different or support those recommended resources that we already put in each matrix? So we already have a whole column in the matrix that are like links to articles, because when I was thinking about like what would we put, what do we want to include, like what's the purpose, I was like, oh well, we could have articles. I'm like, well, we already have that. We could have research. I'm like, oh well, we already have that. So like I think that one thing we need to decide is what exactly this toolkit will provide that is the next level beyond those links that are in that right hand column. So and then then I thought like hard, like if the purpose of this toolkit, and this isn't a statement, it's a question, is the purpose of this toolkit to give like hard, tangible supports for each component, not like the articles and the rationale or the research or whatever, but is it to give whatever a school might need as like a hard, so like when I think of the processes that like they used in, where did they use that in with Tony? Where's Tony Morgan, in Washington or Oregon? I can never remember.
Oregon.
Right. So like they had like when schools were making decisions on high quality evidence-based materials, they had like a rubric, because that was like a tangible hard thing that they wanted schools to use to consider whether it was. So is that the kind of purpose of this, is to give them hard, like I know in the last iteration there were those, what were those, they were kind of like the standards, Morgan, but they were like learning benchmarks kind of by grade level.
Yeah.
So like is the purpose of this toolkit to provide hard documents that we want, that are helpful? I don't know. So those were the things that about this point, those were the thoughts that I had.
I'm going to say yes. I think that, the tangible resources for school, yes, that's it. This has got to be a place. It has to be, that's the idea of the toolkit, is you pull something out that you can immediately use to fix something that's going on.
Okay. So there, so I think that for me, that was something I thought, like tangible, like, because the right-hand column of the matrices already has kind of that higher level, like, oh, here's the research behind that. Here's an article that supports it, or here's where you could go if you're doing this and search more for yourself. Now, what are we going to provide that's hard and tangible? So.
Would that include peer-reviewed lessons like readwritethink.org, or would that be a tangible piece that an educator could use?
I think what makes it tangible, and this is where I'd like to look at these other two items about elevating the resources listed and how we want to make this different. I think that any resource that we list needs to come with directions for use.
I was thinking about things too, like position statements or the students' right to read, ALA, for teachers who are having to develop rationales and are coming up with censorship issues. But am I on the wrong track here, thinking about that?
No, I think that's great. As long as we've got it related to something in the plan. We don't
Okay.
want the fire hose effect. I think we've done the fire hose. I think we now need to do really structured, targeted, you know, this thing for this audience for this purpose. I think that's what we need to focus on.
And it becomes a companion for the resource, the matrix that we've already created?
Yes.
Yeah, so when I was, one of the things that Morgan said was like to consider structure. And so the matrices, so then when I went back and just double checked. And so we did those. We have 4 of them: birth to age 5, K to 3, 4 to 8, and 9 to 12. So I mean, it seems like the structure should be those 4 age spans, and then within each age span, what exactly are the hard things under each component. Do you want me to put those in there, Morgan? I already have them typed in notes.
Yes, thank you. You are so good.
Well, that's what oops, that's a big spaces. I'll have to fix the space. But yeah, so I was like, okay, so if we like follow suit, and we stay with that same, the same way we did it, then it would be, the grade spans, and then within each grade span, it would be a component. I need less space. Hold on, I'll fix it.
Okay, I trust you. You're good at that. So that seems to be, so there's where we could have, we're going to do this all digitally, and digitally we could have, the toolkit. You open up the toolkit and there's 4 cards, and the 4 cards are grade levels, are each of the grade level spans. And then when you open up each of the grade level spans, you have those 5 components.
Right.
That makes sense?
That was how I envisioned it.
Okay, I can build that site pretty easily. So then what we want to do is, within that structure, start curating materials that we want to use. And we need to make sure that, we're going back to and following what we have included in the Literacy for Me plan, as they relate to these components.
Right. I'm going to pretend this table is cards.
Okay. Look at her go.
Fast working. Yeah, I just opened up the 4 through 8, which is the one that I worked on. The matrix that we worked on together. I think Dee, I worked with you on that.
Yep.
Don't you want to kick those out to the left?
Yeah, I'm gonna, yeah, I need another
You need another
column
column
over there. To the left. Insert column left. There we go.
Okay, I see.
There we go.
So then I think what we do is, in order to develop this, we start with curating materials appropriate to the span and the topic. So maybe what we ask people to do is to sign up for one block. All right. So so maybe Mindy, you go to 4 through 8 and you curate the materials for shared and strength-based leadership, and not only what they are, but with that extra, you know, that framing material, what it is, why to use it, that kind of thing. And then like someone else would take standards aligned evidence-based curriculum for 4 through 8. Right, so we can start by just sort of spreading that out and focusing on something in particular to curate, or we can focus on one component at a time.
It would be helpful for me to completely grasp this, and it may just be me, to maybe do one together with several people and then kind of branch out on our own.
Okay.
But that, again, that's just me, and I might need more support than others.
Well, you know, and I think as you say that though, Mindy, I think that when I look at this, and we have this conversation department wide all the time. When I look at this, like I can think of, you know, like I can think of a lot of needs, and I feel confident with a lot of these needs that are, for example, like I think we need to be cognizant of our strengths. Like I can think of needs that support this shared and strength-based leadership, or certainly the standards and evidence-aligned curriculum, MTSS assessment, but like supportive family and community engagement, we might need to look at some partners,
Okay.
you know, that might not necessarily be sitting here, but might be able to say that, because that certainly is not my area of expertise. So I don't know that I could do, like, I don't know that I would feel like I would do tons of justice to what hard, tangible supports would really fit there.
Mhm.
Hey, Lane. Welcome. So,
Thank you.
Lane, we are looking at in the shared Google folder I sent a little while ago.
Yes.
We're looking at the planning notes.
Okay, cool. I'll open that up.
So we've decided that this is the toolkit is a companion to the plan and matrix, and we want to be providing tangible resources, and we're expanding on what is already in the matrix. And one of the ways we want to make this a little different from what we previously had, we're really trying to avoid that whole fire hose thing, is that for any resource that we include, we develop the framework or explanation for you, right? So Dee just whipped up this little chart, and we've said we want our structure to be the 4 grade spans that we have in the plan with the 5 components. And so what we'll do is we'll look first to curate anything that is appropriate to these components at the grade span. Okay, and that's as far as we've gotten.
It looks good on paper, though. It looks like we've gotten a lot. We've only been here for 15 minutes.
And may I ask another clarifying question?
Absolutely.
So as I'm looking at the 4-8 matrix, right, and I'm going into shared and strength-based leadership and clicking on, say, leadership for literacy in the 21st century, would it, if we were working in this area, would we then go into that white paper and then determine what you said hard or something tangible that an educator or an administrator could take and then use based on what's in that white paper.
Yes,
Am I thinking more
Yes.
correctly now?
yes.
Okay,
Kind of
thank you.
like, kind of like when you get to the end. What do I have here for a book? Like when you get to the end and there's all the appendices.
Yeah,
Like that you can like, so that these are the hard things. You know what I mean? Like that you would want to use, you know, as okay, I'm gonna need these things. That's
That's a
how
good
I
ex-
envision it.
that's a good illustrative example. Thank you. I needed that.
So let me give you another example. Last Wednesday at our state's leadership, ELA leadership. Yes, I'm still going to Sella, by the way. But
I am too, but I couldn't go last week.
well, you were on vacation, but that state leadership meeting, they were talking about writing, and in particular, there was a question about elementary writing. And two books came up. One was The Writing Revolution, and the other one was The Vermont Writing Project. So I suggested, I said, I feel that the writing revolution is what you would want to do with, say, K2 teachers. It really has some down and dirty, really helpful strategies teaching at the sentence level. But then when you get to reading for understanding or writing for understanding or whatever that one is, the Vermont Writing Project, you're going to look more at like 3-5, because now it's where you really engage with and respond to text. So we talked about knowing your audience and your purpose, and not just doing a whole go through of everybody reads everything, but of taking a look at that. Now I'm doing another workshop. I'm doing a series of 4 right now about reading at high school. Well, a really good text to be using in this particular context is Fisher and Frey's text-dependent questions. But I don't think everybody should necessarily spend the time it takes and work out at all the whole thing. Like read the first chapter and then read the chapter on how does the text work? It's they're looking at it as like move number 2. That's the one that nobody does. That's the one that we all need to get. So read the first chapter that explains it and puts it in context, and study this chapter and put that to work. Everything else is the frosting and the sprinkles. These are the cake. So I think when you can give people that kind of direction, like here's a title that's really awesome, but it's actually this chapter that is life-changing. That's what we want to do to make it different than what we've done before, and to really explain how it's related to these companies.
That's
So,
really helpful. Thank you.
So I'm doing a tech study with the Revolution right now with about 40 folks, 38, I think. And so like when Morgan talks about that, like that, you know, building the, you know, expanding sentences and the idea of a single paragraph outline to do that, like the building sentences, the K1 teachers were like, oh, the expanding sentences, that makes so much sense. Then, what's today? Wednesday. When we met, today's Thursday. When we met on Tuesday, there were some 3rd and 4th grade teachers like, oh, like 2nd grade, 3rd grade, they were like, oh, I can really understand like that single paragraph. Like, oh, now I understand. We've really worked on developing a topic sentence. Now we're going to do this. And it gets them to not plagiarize. And it's this whole like tangible system. And then one of the 5th grade teachers emailed me afterwards and she's like, oh, I'm really looking forward to moving to multi-paragraphs. Like, how do we then move students to multi-paragraphs? So like I have a couple of middle school teachers who are, you know, special ed teachers, but primarily elementary, and they like the tangible, like Morgan said, of this particular book. So when I think of a toolkit, and I know that we look at so much stuff in the run of a day, a week, a month, a year, that if people were like, okay, we know we really, like I got a rubric that somebody sent me this week, and said, oh, I really love this MTSS rubric. What do you think? And I was like, whoa, like this thing is huge. Like you people are going to cry if you hand them this whole rubric and be like, here we go. Let's all do this. And I said to her, you're like, okay, so like maybe you should just like take a littler piece of it. And so I think of like, how could we build something that people were like, could focus? Like, we need to support, you know, in MTSS framework, like gathering data. Because in our survey for LD 138, people gather data all over the place, but then they don't know what to do with it. Right, Lane?
Well, yeah. But-
Like,
but
Why are you calling on me on that one?
because you're gathering data.
I know. What's a
And doing
data-rich,
something with it.
information poor, right?
Right? Like when we got the surveys, we had 143 surveys returned, and we probably had 35 schools, plug your ears, Lane, that said we identify students who need help. We don't know what to do with them after we've identified them.
Yes.
But man,
Yeah.
if we identified them, we can identify the heck out of them. They can
Yeah.
collect the data, but then what do you know, so like a toolkit would be like, okay, now what?
So that's what I want to explain. And it's funny because I had a couple of colleagues and I were planning some stuff earlier, and we're planning PD. They wanted to blast out all of the research and theory. I said, you're not teaching a college course. This is a workshop. We're providing, I mean, you've got to walk away with something you can use tomorrow. When I go to a toolkit, I do not want a syllabus. I do not want to be able to look at it as building a syllabus. This is not necessarily a college learning experience. This toolkit is where I go and I pick out the right tool to use at this moment to go do the thing I have to do. So if it feels like it's a whole lot of theory and research, that has to go elsewhere. The toolkit is the tool we're actually using to get the work done.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, so I have a couple of, and again, I'm a little late to the game here and I apologize. So one of my questions, Morgan, that you just made me think of is, do you have an amount of resources you would like under each one of these categories? And should it be similar? Should we say, here are the top 5 for each one of these categories, each one of these boxes? Is there, I mean, because you're right, we could go on and on and on. If you ask me a question about this, I can give you 30,000 resources. So I wonder if we as a group wanted to just, limit us in some way. So that's kind of my first question, and I'll stop there. I got more, but what do you guys think about that?
I'm saying, I would say yes, 2 to 5, 2 minimum and,
Yes.
and 5 maximum. And yes, if there's some way of deciding what are the best ones for some reason, if we can come up with some criteria, then yes, I absolutely. I think the more strategic the tools in the toolkit, the more likely they are to be used.
Yep.
So my follow-up question is, because you guys were talking about texts, which is awesome. And it kind of makes me think of assignments that we give our students, annotated bibliographies, right? Like they have, what's the text, and then annotate that. Like, why would you use that? And how would you use that? Something like that. Or are we thinking of websites, or are we thinking of a combination of both? I guess in a digital way, podcasts, videos, what are you thinking about if we're saying 2 to 5 resources? What are we thinking about in terms of resources? A mix of here are 2 really good texts, here are 2 websites, here are 2 other, I don't know. It's just something that's popping in my brain.
Yeah, no, I think that you have to have a variety. There has to be a variety of the resources you go to.
I like what you're saying, Lane. I was thinking about like Cult of Pedagogy, a particular podcast that
Love
is
them.
right
I
on.
love her.
Or Kelly Gallagher and Penny Kittle are doing those daily YouTube videos right now where they just interviewed Matt Glover yesterday and they talked about Don Graves. Perhaps, and perhaps we put more than 2 to 5 in each box, and then we together talk about which would be the strongest.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Like overpopulate, perhaps, if we've got these ideas about what we think. I don't know.
But
Start
when you
with
think of
with
something
more.
like the cult of pet, you know, when you think of, or a podcast, any podcast, if you identify, like, there's nothing that said they couldn't look at more. But if you narrowed and identified, like, this one really serves, serves to, really shore up this particular component and this particular age group, there's nothing to say that that wouldn't lead them to, oh, like, see, like, it might lead them to some other things. And it might open up, even if you only have three, it might open up many options because you could put, direct them to, I just shared last week one of Tim Shanahan's, I mean, he has his blog, but I just shared one, like, hey, here's a good one for, to talk about something. So,
Yeah, I like that idea. I like the multimodal way of thinking about that in texts and podcasts. And and I mean, I'm always searching for, I love the Cult of Pedagogy. I listen to that one all the time. I listen to the Heinemann one, but I'm always looking for new ones, so I love, oh, and Mindy, tell me about the web thing with Penny Kittle. What is that? And is it just a daily streaming? I want to get
Yes, it's a daily YouTube that I subscribe to, and I just found it on Twitter because I follow Penny Kittle and Kelly Gallagher there.
Yeah.
So they have, I think it's like 15 or 16 days now
Oh, cool.
of just short, about 20-minute videos where they're talking together. And anyway, and Matt, I can't wait to go back to, I think it's yesterday or the day before. I think Matt Glover is just amazing as a elementary writing person. And so anyway, I'm looking forward to that.
So Morgan and Dee, how are you thinking that this is going to be presented? Like, and I'm just kind of thinking like, in my clunky way of thinking about it, and I'm sure there's a better way to do this. I think like it'll take you to a page that, I'm thinking like, if I were building this for my students, it would be like a Google page, Google Doc with these links and a little description. But how are you envisioning that this would look kind of out to the public?
Morgan is the Drupal queen. However, I think what we talked about is that idea that, there's going to be, there's the way that the website looks, that with, each page, quote unquote page, but then there would be, a tab or something that said, resources. And then on each, like there's the cards, like when we look at the cards, there would be a card for each grade level or grade span, and under it would be like you could click on resources for shared and strength-based leadership, resources on tools for developing. I mean, they could be resources or tools, because we call the other one recommended resources. So these might be, tools for moving, supporting work in MTSS, tools for something like that.
So as a website, definitely,
Yes.
and each grade span would have its own card to begin with, and then you go and it would have the 5 components, and then each component would have its own page.
Thank you. I was just trying to think, and obviously you have someone who will build that for you, I'm assuming.
No, Morgan is
Morgan,
someone.
woo! I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Well, our system is pretty limited, so yeah, it's easy. It's not that hard actually to do that. So so what I think we should do in this chart that we have in the planning document is maybe claim a few of the places where you feel you can. So for example, under standards aligned evidence-based curriculum, grade 9 through adult, I feel pretty strong about that. I feel like, yep, I can go find some stuff for that. Balanced assessments, I feel like I can address that and find a few things.
Do you want us all to just put our names in the ones even if they're more than one name in that, and then we can kind of hash out who'll do what? Because I know I could plug myself in all the ones that are interesting to me, but if you're interested in it too, I'd be willing to give it up, but maybe like start throwing our names in there.
I
then
think
at least-
everybody, because then we become sort of mini working teams too. And I think there should be more than one person in each of those boxes. Hopefully.
Well, and like Mindy said, overpopulate, then it gives us something to have conversation about, or maybe more modes, or, you know.
So what I'm doing now is creating separate pages in our document, in our folder rather. So I'll create a page for each one of the components, and then within the component, we can identify the grade span appropriate resources. And the reason I think we should have you know, like one document for the component is that some of them may be appropriate to multiple spans. Some of them may be appropriate to all 4 of the spans. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But remember, we're going to have different clips. So if we want them on, we've got to put them into each one of those different places. So that's why I think that we can see the components in that whole K adult or birth to adult span if we do it in this document like this. Okay.
I'm sorry, Morgan, did you say that you're going to, in this one document that we're in right now, that you're going to link to other, like, or I'm not sure.
She's going to make separate pages for each one of these.
That's what I was thinking you
Yeah.
said.
In
Okay.
the Google folder, but not in this one, not in the notes page.
That makes sense, because I was just, for some reason, I thought you said you were just gonna, and I thought, oh my God, that's gonna get unwieldy. So in the Google folder, you'll have a page for each one that we can populate.
Yes.
Perfect. That works.
Each component.
Each component.
But then all 4 grade spans of that component. And then we can see if there's things that should be in multiple places. You know, multiple grade spans, because I could see that definitely happening.
So there are obviously some that I don't feel super comfortable with, but I could do, like if you said, like the family community involvement, like I guess I could pull something together, but, or I could ask people that I know who would be, you know, like I'm more than happy to take on something as a, you know, let me talk to my people and I can come up with things. So I don't know, do you want us to?
That's funny. That was the one I was thinking about too, Lane. I'm thinking maybe I should like cut and paste just that section of each matrices and send it off to some people to say, hey, what hard, tangible, you know, tools would you think somebody would need to support these works, you know, because that's not my strength either. Yes.
I'm gonna hit a pause on that one, because here's how I think we should work.
Okay.
We have a group of people who have offered to work on this. And they're not all here today. So I think that we let the other people who've offered to work on this watch this recording and step in and put their names in the boxes and start gathering stuff. And we plan to meet again in a few weeks and take a look at that and see what we've got and just evaluate, like, how is this going? I think we don't reach out to other people until we know what we've got as a team. Okay.
We have gaps.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, since everybody's not here yet, let's just see. Let's work with what we've got first and do the curating, because I think so the first step is to curate. The second step is to go out and ask for some advice. The third step would be to create. I mean, if there's really stuff we feel we need that does not exist appropriately, we'll have to create it. And so that's something else entirely. So let's just take the people who want to do the work, do the curating of what we've got to begin with, and do an evaluation, and then we can strategically reach out so that we're not all reaching out to the same people. Again, we can divide and conquer, and then see if we still have gaps after all that.
Which are number 3 and 4 of your agenda. Review and develop resources as needed. I did read it.
This is what I think the process should be. I mean, I have a big picture in my head, right? So let's just go after the things that excite us and that we feel confident about. Let's go look at that. And I think that annotation, I think you said, like, you know, doing the annotated syllabus, that's always so much more helpful than just an exhaustive syllabus, bibliography rather. I think approaching it as, you know, an annotated bibliography linked back to what we have in the plan would be most helpful. Sorry, my cat all of a sudden is like shutting.
So I think that sounds like a really strategic plan. I think that's a good idea. I'm wondering, you know, just looking at, you know, I threw my name down at a bunch. Like, I wonder if maybe we should, like, maybe each of us could try 1 or 2 of them and then come back. I don't want to go too far in any of these without kind of checking with the group to see if I'm on track first. You know, like, I wonder if it's like, hey, let me take the lead on this one, and in 2 to 3 weeks, let's come back and I'll show you what I've done. And we could all share what we've done and then see, because I don't want to replicate something that you guys aren't thinking about over and over and over again. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what do you think? Okay, so the week after school vacation.
And Lane, I asked a similar question before you joined us, just as far as like, try one together to see kind of what we're looking for.
Oh,
and
that's a good idea. I like that too. Sorry, Mindy, I wouldn't have asked my question if I'd heard yours.
Not at all. No, your question was more focused on what we're doing, and mine was more general.
I have lots of afternoon time, Morgan, on the 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Well, I was thinking like maybe the 28th. How do things look for you on the 28th?
After 2:15, it's fine.
After 2:30 for me, and before 1 is fine.
Yeah.
I can do after 2:30 on the 28th.
Okay, so Danielle Saucier.
Yep.
I'm just going to send you guys an invitation right now. And then, oh, here we go. And then I'll set up a Zoom meeting later, but right now I'm sending her a calendar invite. Okay, so who's not here? Janet Murakami is not here. There we go, Janet M. Michelle DeBlois, she's someone else who chose to be here. Nicole, she's off with kids. Okay, I think that's it.
Cool. All right, I'm gonna scoot because my ride for my appointment's gonna be here soon, and I'm gonna be left alone. No car. Gotta get my car. When your ride says they can come, you're like, okay, I can go.
Okay.
So Dee, do you have one that you wanted to start on? Want to just claim one?
Probably. Whoops! Wait, I've lost my Google Doc. Where is it? There it is. I will probably. It doesn't really matter to me, but probably either standards and aligned evidence-based curriculum or MTSS, either the birth or the K3 one, like one of those. Yeah, either one of those, like 4 right there together. So any one of those would be my preference of where to start.
How about this? I'll give you the MTSS. I'm going to highlight you there. Oh, whoa.
Perfect.
Did
Ooh,
something
I
else
like them
here.
yellow.
Yeah, that's not what I meant to do.
I know
Only
what you meant.
because maybe Mindy, maybe Mindy, what do you want to start with?
I'm gonna
I would
scoot.
go,
Have a good night, everybody.
Hi, Dee.
Ready?
Yeah.
Heidi, I'm fine. I'm very flexible and we'll go with what the majority would like to start with.
What do you think, Morgan? Do you think maybe we should, actually, how about this? Can I change on D? What if we all started with this whole standard aligned based curriculum?
Okay,
Because then at least we're seeing what each other are doing and we could see the overlaps if we're dealing with the same. Does that make sense?
yes,
It does.
Yeah, so why don't I give Mindy, do you have a grade preference, Mindy? I don't.
No, I mean, my own experience before teaching here at USM was 3 through 5.
Oh, me too. But how about this? Why don't I give you the 4 through 8?
Okay,
And I'll take the younger one. And then we'll give D the birth through 8, age 5. Does that make sense? And maybe then we could all kind of tackle that. What do you call that, Morgan? Like that strand or that, what are you calling that?
oh, it's a component.
Component. Yeah. And then we can gather and see what we've come up with.
And-
Absolutely.
so I have another question based on that. So are we also then, I'm going back to the matrix. That's 4-8. I really want to start there.
Yes,
Before I start looking for tangible, I want to make sure that whatever I'm finding for resources, for hard resources that teachers and administrators can walk away with, aligns with what we have here in this particular matrix.
absolutely. I think that's a great idea.
Where's the most recent copy of the matrix?
Mine are old. I still have 2020 on the ones.
Yeah, that's what I'm
that I have on my
wondering.
Google
I know
folder.
No, they're all posted. Hold on just a second.
Oh, they're on the website, aren't they now?
We're on the website.
Oh,
Yeah.
they are on the website. Okay. Awesome.
Oh geez, I was just there and then I went someplace else because I was foolish.
Is there any way that, Morgan, in a second, you can share your screen and show us where you're finding those? Just make sure I'm going to the right ones.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to drop this link in the chat.
Oh, even better.
And then my suggestion is just bookmark it. But from there, you should be able to open up all the separate components. And you'll see the toolboxes are coming soon, kind of.
Excellent. That's exciting.
There we go. Okay.
So are they under the critical components then? I know I reviewed all of this earlier when you asked us to. The matrix.
Yes.
Yes.
Cool, thank you. Oh, there it is. Okay, got it.
And you see the drop down menus? Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I'm going to do, Morgan? I think I'm going to drop that into that new, oh no, you have shared and strength-based leadership one that you started. I thought you started the,
I thought I started all of them too. It's like okay, I'm just gonna make that new again. Nope, I don't want a folder. Cancel.
So our drafts had all those links and then our final has no links whatsoever. The drafts that we started way back when, but when we're looking at these components, there are no things that are linked here on the website.
I'll have to go and look at that again.
Is that correct? Because when I go back to our original working documents, it was a table with, and then the links were like, as I said, the white paper, but I'm not seeing this on the website, this PDF that I opened up.
Okay. Well, it could be a problem we need to fix, so I will go and look at that.
They should have all those links, correct, Morgan? From when I look at I'll put this in here. I'll put this in the chat. So,
Oh, great. Thank you.
Uh-huh. And again, I was going back to the work that we were doing before.
Ooh, that's awesome. Mindy, I like that. I'd forgotten about that one.
But that's not how they turned out on the website.
No, but I kind of like already looking at some of the tools that you already had under each one of those.
That's where I was asking, but I wasn't looking at the most recent components.
Yeah, but that's a really good resource, though.
All right, so I'll find out what happened with the links.
Okay. Because it does say resources to support adolescent literacy development, but then when you click on that, well, they are, but they're just not embedded. They're not hyperlinked, I
Yeah.
guess. Main learning results are not linked. WIDA standards are not hyperlinked.
All right, that's probably something that I've got to do manually for each of those. So I will go back and look for those.
But we want to, I mean, based on what's published, that's where we want to start, not necessarily a draft from 2020.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
What's published, definitely.
all right.
No, but that draft had some good stuff on it, though.
Right, so we need to make sure that everything matches up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and take a look at that.
But that was the local level matrices that we were working on.
Yeah,
I see September 9th, 2021 dates on these, in the folder. Here's the folder. But again, I don't know if this is what we want.
Hey.
But there's the folder with all 4 of those drafts.
thank you. Oh, yeah, I got it. With all of them linked.
Mhm.
Yep, I see that.
Okay, I'll go back and look and see what's going on. Leon and I have a time next week to work on cleaning up some stuff.
But meantime, we'll go back to what's published and then curate a few resources to share and see if we're on the right track when we get together on the 28th.
Yep.
Sounds like a good plan.
I liked what Dee said about, and what you were both saying about using, chapter 3 of the Saravello text or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
Just to zero in on a specific strategy that would be really supportive and fits within that that framework, or fits within those components.
Right, to show clearly how it's aligned and
Yes.
what it is. Yeah, I think it's the only way to really get people to start digging in and using stuff. Okay.
so you want us to start kind of using that document that you opened up, and we'll start kind of putting things in there, and then we'll kind of recheck and see what we think, right?
Right. Yep.
Excellent. Okay.
Phew. All right. Well, this is great. I'm going to, first of all, I want to make sure that I turn off the recording. I think we're good to go.